Hello, hello. Back out here again. Well, I still don't have any propane, but I did find the round rod, and I've got this flat piece of bar, so I can at least get started on. I think we said yesterday we're going to try and make a cutlass. Well, I can get started on the cutlass handle, which is honestly the most intimidating part of a highly decorative cutlass, because the blade is nice, and granted, it's the workhorse of the blade, of the piece. But if you're gonna do a highly, just a second, guys, let me get the wood burning oven going, because it's a little cool in here. It's not super cold, Bert and Parnell, because I know you're gonna comment on that. But it's cold enough that I don't need to get any sicker than what I am. I've already got head cold. Alright, there we go. That'll probably get it a bit warmer in here. A little bit of smoke. Well, that'll burn off pretty quick. Anyhow. Well, I guess I can always plug this fan back in and at least get it blowing smoke in some direction and not right at my face. Just make sure not to turn the fan on my face or towards me. Said already got a cold, don't need orders. Okay, where's the damn on-off switch? Where's the end of the plug? Ah, well, that's more important. Okay. Now, hell, I had it plugged in somehow. How the hell? Oh, okay, I see what's going on. Yeah. You know how some of these plugs have, like, one side that's thicker than the other and shit? Huh. Well. Well, the smoke's kind of starting to come out of here anyway. It was just that initial flare up. It's dissipating a bit, but it's still in here. Anyway, one of the main reasons I actually use the forge, okay, a little thing about forging. 90% of the forging technique is honestly to get flat usable stock. If you're trying to, turn, say, a lawnmower blade into a knife, well, lawnmower blades typically come kind of with that twist in it, and you got to get that flattened out. And I'd definitely be cutting off this little piece and that little piece, but because they're kind of hard to really do anything with. But that's once you get it flat, at that point you can do 90% of the work with what they call stock removal, which and I've heard people saying it's not historically correct, but it is a safer concept. If you're doing, oh, hi, Sky. You have less risk of cracking steel and of putting any sort of a deep hammer mark, stuff like that. So if you've already got flat steel to work with, you don't really need to forge it out. All you really need to do is just cut, grind to shape. You're still going to have to heat treat, so you're probably still going to need a forge. I mean, you don't have to have a super 3-burner, unless you're regularly doing like long swords. Longest thing you're getting out of me is like 3 foot, guys, because on the back side of my forge, there's about this much space. Yeah, I'm not trying to 3 foot. I'm not trying to 6 foot nothing. Because if I did cut a hole in the back of the building to put it through, I would be stabbing my neighbor's house. And I think he'd be a little ticked off if I stab his house with a red hot blade and catch his house on fire. So you're not getting a 4-year or big ass. No. Nothing this tall, okay? You're getting shit out like that, 3 feet. Anyway, here's comparison. You're getting shit about like this, okay? Which, I mean, hell, for years that was a full length sword. Hell, that was a damn long sword back in the Roman era. Anyway, but I'm going to take a piece of this, like we said yesterday, about yay much, and I'm going to go ahead and lock this in the vise and get it cut down. Change out the wheeling on this to a cutoff wheel, because this buffing wheel ain't gonna do crap. Cutoff wheel, where are you? Nope, that's a grinder. Here's a pack of cutoff wheels. Oh, there's cutoff wheels. I was like, surely I don't need to open one. There we go. All right. That part's done. Clean up that. Yep, definitely got to get the fan going. Kind of starting to burn my eyes. I'm going to unplug these Christmas lights back here. I don't want to say that. Okay, where's your on-off switch? I know you have one. I had you running. Huh. Okay, did you... completely go out on me or what? Well, damn. Anyway. Well, now the... Just a second, guys. Okay. I've got a little hole cut over here above the wood burning stove, but yeah, it's the first time I've had to use lighter fluid in here to get that thing started. And the smoke kind of burned your eyes. Anyhow, but after you cut something like this, you're going to end up with this kind of a rough, jagged edge here. I'll bring them over here. I need to set up over here the door. Okay, now if we're going to go on that one very well. I know you'll fit on that. I'm just using some of my work clamps as yeah, sorry, moving the phone, I kind of lost. Yeah, I'm having fun with this crap. Alright, I'm trying to find a good place for y'all to sit for y'all and watch what I'm doing. but that's been easier said than done. I had a different clamp that y'all fit on real well. Oh, yeah, different manufacturers of these things have different diameters. So this is what I'm using as a, and I'm clipping this somewhere, and I've got a ring on the back of my phone, and I can just kind of like set it. Can you see that? If I turn it that way. Okay, there you go. You can see that well enough. So what I'm doing, can you see this one? Nope, can't see that one. Let's see. Well, here. There's light over here. Alright, so here, yeah, round it off the edges real quick. Okay. So now I can, ow, it's still a little warm. Get rid of that burred edge. Okay. Yeah, even though the machine was stopping, it still had enough speed to get rid of that little wire edge. But anyhow, so, you notice I have lines on here. I had them set out about every 4 inches. Because, I was figuring I'd probably, your standard, a decent handguard for like a little dagger or something like that. It's about 4 inches. But it also works out fairly well to this build we're doing. Because if I isolate where that hole is there, I can bend this part up and around into like a thumb guard like a saber has. And then I can bend this back around. That's still about the right distance to wrap around the hand. Let's see. Oh, hell, I don't even have a drill bit in there. Might kind of need that. For now, I'm going to try to, if I can get this thing to work right, we'll see if I can get it to cooperate. It's been a little pain in the ass lately. Yeah, not really wanting to hold bits, Yeah, okay, we're going to do this the more, well, call it what you will, a little more easier method, or the more, I don't know if I'd say easier, the more everyone has this tool method. Well, if not everyone, well, you know what I mean. It's a much more common tool. I'll say that. Hell, there's a saber handle I never did finish right there. I'll show it to you in a second. I'll try to get y'all up here. Okay. Come on. If I can get this thing to work. Bam. There we go. Okay, now I got y'all over here. Can you see the vise? Nope, you can't see crap. Okay. Here's the vise. Okay, so here's another saber handle I'd made from just some random junk bits I had laying around just to see if I could do it. It was supposed to have like a grapevine looking bit, but it just kind of, eh. It was more of a, you ever hear the term proof of concept? It basically means that you were just testing something to see if the concept would work, you know. And it kind of did, but it was made so small that it was like, eh, you know. If I'd put a sword in there with a tang that little, Yeah, there's a good chance we're talking. I could just wave it and then the handle would have snapped right off. Okay, come on. Oh shit. Come on. Okay. I know what I'll probably have to do. I'll probably have to take a punch and get a little hole started enough for that drill bit to get into, because it's just gonna trying to walk all around the place right now. Hammer. There's hammer. Luckily, vices also have a mini anvil on them, or a lot of them do. It's not much of an anvil, but it's still kind of an anvil. I wouldn't try to, do a big project on it by any means. Okay. Come on, get on there. Alright, we're going to switch out to a different bit. That's actually a step down bit. It was just the first one I found. Without literally having to go into the drawer. Okay. We're starting to get there. We got a divot. What the hell? I dulled this? Another little trick, you can sharpen it a little bit. Another thing is what direction do I have this on? No, I had it right way this time. Oh, come on. Get in there. It's pulling, just real slow. What the hell? I'm going to switch out real bit to see if I got one with a better end. Because that happens too. When you work with metal, you can basically wear down your tips pretty quick. There we go. There we go. Now the trick is to line up a series of these holes right next to each other. Without doing that and dropping off in the hole next to you. So then I have to move down a bit. Okay. And try not to get your drill in a bind. Okay. Well, let's do this. Haven't done that in a while. And I don't want to burn up this drill considering it's actually Becky's. It's a $200 bill drill. I'm willing to cut an end of a drill bit off before I do that. Yeah, I mean, a pack of drill bits cost me like $3 versus a $200 drill. Yeah. Yeah. Come on, get out of there. Well, it's out. Exactly the way I wanted it to be out, but it's out. And broke off in there. Okay, well. Let's see. And I do have more. Last time I bought 2 packs of those drill bits. Here. I don't want to drill into the vise either. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. Get it up here. There's 3 little holes. Probably technically need a 4th for the size of tang that we would have on this. Trying to get a hole made. Okay, there's 4 holes here. We're going to put one in the other end. Now that one is basically going to be just to get something through. Okay, now I switch out of this little narrow bit like it's in here. And now I grab that step down bit I had earlier. Yeah, this one. I would have had to use this bit eventually, but in the drill bit a lot of time, or in the drill press a lot of times I can just use this one. And because like right now I'm going in and I'm just opening that hole up a bit. See, once it's established, all I'm doing is just making it bigger. I mean, that didn't go all the way through. It will, but it's going to take me a second. Before I helicopter the crap out of myself with this thing, because I could see it happening. Yeah, let's lock it in. But now that the hole's already in here, it's not going to do as much as that walking all over the place with that. A bit more. See if I can sharpen this up a bit. If you've ever looked at a bench grinder and notice sometimes there's a little channel cut right here, you know, in the little table angle toward it, it's for that reason. Sharpening drill bits and stuff. I still don't get why this is not working better. Because, I mean, yeah, it's making a decent little divot, but it is not going all the way through. Let's see if I have a different one around here, because I used to have like 3 of these. And as I seen earlier, sometimes your issue is that you've just lost your temper in your drill bit, and it's gotten hot enough times to get soft on you, and then it just don't really want to drill anymore. But yeah, these normally come in a pack of 2 to 3. So I should have at least one more somewhere around here. Because I normally have a large one. This is like a medium size and kind of a skinny one. Well, that's going to be annoying. I mean, I've got other types of drill bits, but these are like masonry bits. I'm going to give it a shot anyway. I will have to get those little ears off of there. So, give me a second, guys. Huh. Okay. And the annoying thing is, I know I've also got a little box of drill bits here somewhere. Besides just the little ones I've been using. Oh, there's a failed pocket knife. Not really failed, it was just kind of a weird shaped blade when it came out. One of my first ones on. I didn't really know what I was doing. Come on. What are you? Cut off wheels. Okay. Not what I need. I'm still here, guys. I'm just digging around for something right now. Well, I can clean that up easy enough when we get around to actually putting the tang in here. So, I mean, we have that established for now, which is the most important part of that. Okay, so now you've got to figure out about how much of this you want to have straight up beyond your where the tang is. So if my hand's here, I don't really want that bending right here. I want that bending about an inch up. You know, if it, or even better, if it starts to bend here. Let's see. Let me mark that. Okay. Everything but what I'm looking for. And chalk something. Marker. Where are you? Ignore the crazy guy talking to himself on the feed. Anyway, I figured out about where it needs to be bent. The issue is, now that you've got holes here, this is going to be the weak point. So if you try to bend it at all in the vise, it's going to want to bend there. So you kind of have to, like, basically, you're going to get it in the vise at least up to that point of that. And actually, wherever you want to keep it stabilized to, you're going to move out that far. Like if the holes are here and I want the bend to start here, I've got to have the part with the holes in it inside the vise. And then I can grab this with, got a little piece of steel tubing here somewhere. I can put over the end and use, well, it doesn't have to be steel. I can use, well, there's a piece of steel tubing, but that's really thin. I'm pretty sure it'll bend first. Oh, there it is. There it is. This piece of pipe is what I was looking for. Put it over that, and just simply start bending it forward. Let's go back a bit. Bend a little more. My allergies have been messing with me. Okay, so now that we got that bend established, alright, something else I can do is come up like this and go over those holes like I mentioned earlier and make sure they're locked into that pipe so it doesn't want to bend there anymore. Now I've got a pretty decent, see my hands here, a decent forward guard going. So then you got to figure out about where it needs to go the other way. So there again, we'll try to keep that isolated inside the vise where the holes are. And luckily a 4-inch vise works pretty well for that. Get around this and bend back. Not quite as easy as it looks. There we go. Now, okay. It's got about as far as I can get it without heating it. But for what I'm doing right now, this little torch will actually manage to heat this up well enough for me to at least bend it. I don't really necessarily have to have a forge for that. I just have to have enough heat to soften it. So we're going to sit here for a minute and let this cook. There we go. Alright. So that bit that far. Now, there's one more bend down here. Trying to get that locked in there. Come on, get in there. Okay. And this tiny little one is, yeah, I didn't think so. Alright, got to heat it too. Cool. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. That's kind of a bunch of not really curves and rounded. It's more angular. Well, angular existed too back in the day. It was just kind of more... wasn't looked at as to be as aesthetically friendly. Also, your fingers could get kind of cramped up down here in the bottom of the guard. But we'll handle that. I'm just trying to get enough of a bend in this to where, you know, these two holes line up a bit better. Let's see. Whoa. Okay. Well, here. Alright. It's starting to... I mean, I can get my hand in there easy enough. Yeah. And... okay. Let's see, what do I need to do here? I need to do... yeah. Okay. Clamp a bit better. So, let's see. Well, I don't normally use a clamp as a handle, but I can. Something to give me a little more leverage on this thing. Come on, curl. Okay, so for the most part, you notice hand still fits in there pretty much where it's supposed to. Has a little bit of wiggle room when that's still a bit warm. But yeah, that's what you're after. You know, you got to sweep. You can completely round that, but I found it, honestly, the straighter and then curl back has a better aesthetic look for some reason. So the next thing you'll want to do is try to clean this up a bit. And for that, we're back to the angle grinder. But I'm going to switch out wheels because I don't need a cutting wheel to clean. I just want to get all this whatever coating that's on here off of here. Now I could use this flat disc, which it'll cut into it though. I don't really want to cut into it. I just want to like clean it up. There. once these wheels get small enough, you can't just grab them and twist them anymore. Well, you could, but you're probably just going to tear up your hand. That's when you got to get out the little tool. I got this one, a little Harbor Freight one that's adjustable to any size of grinder. You just move them in, move them out, as you need. But yeah, it was a nice little item. Oh yeah, with the red disc, gotta take that off. Put that on. Put the top one back on. Okay, and then we'll take this whatever coating off. Flip this around. Okay, let go. All right. See, it's kind of a little bit shinier at least. It's not like mirror buffed yet, but that'll be like one of the last things you really do. You just kind of want to get it to where you just kind of really want to get it to where you don't have to do nearly as much work once you get it all assembled and you're fighting like hell to get into backsides and recesses. Something else you can do though when it comes to that is depending on the style of sword. A lot of times they were lined. The back of these are lined with leather, some sort of fabric. Common one now is just to paint the backside. Anywhere you're not really going to be able to get down into with any sort of tool, you just go over it with like some black paint, and then it looks pretty well done. Like there's a reason I'm not going to do the inside of this loop here because we'll be using that method. But yeah, I mean the outside, the parts you want to look kind of nice and glossy and pretty, yeah, we'll get all cleaned up. This will be easy enough to get to in the last stages. I just, in here where I'm going to be putting the blade, it would be real hard to get in around that afterwards. And back here on the tang where we're going to put the pommel. Alright. So there's that. Okay. That said, this part will clean up quick and easy enough. Now, there are plenty of swords that just literally had that. That was their handguard. That was the whole thing. I mean, you could stop right there and nobody would argue with what it was. But we were going to do a little bit fancier. So your options were, all right, you could do cup hilt, swept hilt. This would have been an example of like a swept. See all the little sweeping bars? Which is probably what we're going to do something a bit closer to. I could do cup hilt. I do have a thin sheet of steel. Where'd it go? Here, which I normally was using for making like pocket knives. You'd cut out the blade, and then this would cut out two pieces, and they would get sandwiched on the side. Well, here, look, the blade and these two bits. But that's still about the right thickness for a handbell. Um, but the way you would do a handbell is you're going to cut like a dog bone looking thing out of it. It's annoying me. I still don't know where my pen or marker and none of that crap's at. I could have sworn my marker was out here because I could have sworn I used it the other night. Or last night when I was goofing with that. Unless I stuck it in my pocket and took it in the house, which is always a possibility. Anyway, you're going to cut out this like double, almost a figure 8 kind of thing. I'm just looking for something I can use as even a half-ass pencil or something that I think y'all could see. Yeah, it's annoying. Anyway, okay, so can you see my, you're right. So you would cut out this like circle here, and in the middle will be this little bit of webbing and a notch, and it would go on there, and you would have these two little cups moving back, which is not the hardest method, but it would be extremely noisy to do that right now. And it is like probably 10 p.m. at night, and my neighbors would not be real damn happy with me. The shop building kind of muffles the angle grinder a bit, but when you're cutting metal on a bandsaw, yeah, that's not so quiet. I mean, this is kind of noisy, but the other would be extremely noisy. And I just carried a piece of round rod out here that I was going to be working with. Now, where did I put you? Okay. No, not that. Not that. Oh, I am batting a million a night. Every time I turn around, shit goes missing. Think I'm catching a bit of my son's ADHD tendencies. And I didn't know that crap was, contagious. Apparently it is. Shit. Where'd you go? I had you. Out here. Fire. Move some crap out of my way. Now that's going to annoy the crap out of me. Ow. Oh, hell, hit it right in front of me. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a ring hilt, which will have a couple of rings, one coming off here, one coming off there, and possibly connect one. Let's see. Yeah, we'll make the rings and then we'll put a couple of just sweeps connecting. It'll be similar to this, but it won't have this forward tang piece, and it won't have like this curled bit. Yeah. First off, we need to isolate how much of this we want our loops to be made out of, and they both need to be the same size. Well, I guess they don't have to be, but it's gonna look real weird if they're not. uh, your symmetry is just gonna be kind of all over the place if they're not basically the same length. I'm gonna use this file as a decent little guide for how long to make them. Okay, and then in fact I can use the file to kind of mark just enough to let me know where to cut. And believe it or not, I can do the cutting over here on the bench grinder, because I can just kind of drag it into the edge of the wheel. And where did I leave that mark? There's that mark. So there we go. Basically all I did was I just kind of turned it like I was sharpening a pencil. But now I need to knock these down to where, because those points don't weld where the track. See, flattened off. So now I got that one. Alright. Now I got them down to an even width. So now, what I'm going to do is, since I want these both to be bent the same, I'm going to lock them both into the vise at once, side by side. Ooh, get back up here. Well, I had more grip on one than the other. Okay. Put my little bending bar over here and bend them both at the same time. That will ensure that they're both bent to the same, degree. They have the same curl. Yeah, that gets a bit warm. Okay, get both of those, and if I can get them both in here. Okay. But, shit. Okay, get in there. Get in there. I'm going to have to go vertically again. Okay, but now, obviously, I can't get that pipe. Well, actually, I can do something. Even that off. Bring this down under here. Make sure you got a pretty good grip on those two at the bottom so they're not sliding around and shit. Try to keep them as even as you can. Okay. They're in the realm of even. There's nothing I can't grind to fit. And then bend this side down the same. Okay. You're thinking, oh my god, that's horribly, it's not even this way, but when they come onto here, I can make them work out. But they would be angled like that and kind of give you a butterfly look, or I could do it the other way, but I think I'd rather have the butterfly. Actually, yeah, we can work with that. See, if you look like this, and if I connect it like this, and connect it like that, you've almost got like a heart set up around the guard. And as long as it's kind of even like that, it looks okay. It's whenever you get into shit that's like, this one's like this, and this one's like that, and then you're like, what in the hell? Yeah, it just really starts messing with people's, OCD. Yeah, people can be fine with OCD issues as long as you keep shit at least. I mean, it doesn't have to be, perfectly straight and level as long as it's even from one side to the other, I found. As long as I guess the word is symmetrical, as long as it's even on one side to what it is on the other. It doesn't necessarily have to be straight across. Well, welder's not even on. Okay, so here we go. We're going to tack weld these on. And get out there. A little more. A little more. Okay, well, that's finally kind of holding. Now I can come back here. Let go. Now for this side. Ah, okay. Alright. Better. Okay. That made a pretty good connection. At least on that side. Yeah, I can still grab that. Now, gotta flip it over because this side is, well, see what I'm saying? They're kind of in the realm of even though there's a little bit of a, slightly off, but not horrible. Um, People will often still work with this, Let's see if I can tweak that just a little bit. Yeah, normally your weld's still kind of soft, so you can kind of yeah, that's what happened. I didn't get them overly, whoops. Yeah, it was soft, all right. Wasn't even fully welded. Okay. So, oh, that's getting warm. Okay. Okay, clamp back onto you, and wind up kind of where we want you. Oh, come on, quit that. Damn it. Eventually we'll get it there. ow, 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 fingertip. As easily as that came apart, I'm just adding a bunch more welds. So, and I know you're thinking, we just prettied that up. Well, angle grinder will go right through this crap, and we'll even it back off even enough. I just want to make sure this is a fairly solid piece again. I'll let my vision reset for a second. Got a little purple thing right in the center of my vision, which is kind of not really helping me to see this. Shot full of smoke again. Okay. Ah. That looks like it's in the realm of what I was going for, at least. You know. Like the second I touch it, it's not going to fall off. And this is sure going right in there. I also didn't realize I was that low in water. Okay. So. Yep, still suffering with this head cold trip. Anyway, so now that we have that established to be a pretty solid piece across there now, you know, I'm not too worried about it just snapping off first time I look at it funny. Now we get to clean that back up, but this time we are going to have to use like a more aggressive wheel. We are going to have to use like this one. Because trust me, this Scotch-Brite one ain't going to do crap to that. Put the base plate on. Grab that. Top wheel. Okay, so now Okay. Well, we're getting there. You kind of got to keep flipping this around to get into all the little nooks and crannies. Alright, so... got a pretty smooth transition across all this, except for on some of these inner sides here, but that's because I'd had to do that with like a Dremel. You're not going to get that in there worth it. Well, you could, but I don't like where my hands would have to sit to do it. You know, I mean, well, maybe I can, hold on. Yeah, we can do, oh, come on. Jaws work. There we go. behind it. I mean, right up here in the corners would, yeah, you're not really going to be able to get with this. Well, you could, but you risk cutting these back apart. And I really don't want to do that. Okay. Well, still, that's pretty cleaned up, actually. I mean, I don't know if you can see how shiny that is now. There's still a few little surface imperfections here and there. But, I mean, that's... In hell, back in the day, nobody would have... I could have presented this, put her on a brand new sword, and everyone would have been like, okay, yep, send that thing out to war. You know, a lot of times, a blade that was used in whatever combat or for protection really wasn't a gorgeous blade, but I'm going to still pretty this up as best I can. Still wanting to add the bell enclosures down here. One here and one here, but they'll probably be rounded again, kind of like we did what we did earlier. Need to figure out. Yeah, I have a funny feeling that file length is going to keep coming in pretty handy. No, not that one. That's a long one. That's a little bit shorter, but oh yeah, that's a good deal shorter. But that one broke. Yeah, right about that same file length again. Okay. Put a little divot in here so I can see where to cut to, or where to grind at. Go back over here to the bench grinder. Okay. Two straight little bits. I mean, I could just weld them on like that, but they'd be bumping your hand. Okay, that's metal. I was gonna get annoyed if that was my chalk I've been looking for. Okay, so let's wash them. Well, let's even them off first. Alright, close enough to even. Ow, 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 ow. That was a hottie. And you're sliding. Sliding. Shit. Now, luckily, these only have to be bent once. These don't have to have a compound bend. These just need a simple curl like that, because, yeah, I can do, yeah, that's a better spot for them. I can put them here like this, connect there and there, and they look just fine. maybe a bit more bend towards the end there. A little bit of a compound bend, but not much. I mean, tooth back over you. Yeah, I just need to bend that in the slightest bit. Just to make them match up with the curve. And there we go. Yeah, they will mate up pretty well now. Just got to figure out kind of where. Well, they will someplace there. That's just kind of the nature of a curve, and a curve will connect. You just got to kind of figure out when you're playing with it exactly where they connect. Okay, so they connect down this side, and then they'll connect here. See? So luckily, this is a little easier weld over here than what it looks like, because, you know, when you're going the length of something, it connects better. And then I just got to get it tied into that front bar, wherever it's going to tie in. Okay, so, but luckily that's also one of those, once I tie it in, I can grind that. If, let's say, like this little bit's kind of hanging over, it won't be when I'm done. I'll grind that down to match. In fact, I want to move that there, and this there. Okay, so yeah, that'll match up pretty well, and now we're getting a pretty established guard going. Fun part's welding this shit, because this is gonna be, that, okay, where'd my ground go? Yep, I can hit that button all day. All I'm gonna do is get a real long piece of wire if the ground's not connected. That tack on. Little tack down there. Hold still. These little rounder are all you're really doing is tacking. That is when you're connecting it in. I mean, a tack weld is really all you're trying to do down there. Now up here, you're trying to run a weld. Because I want as much of this connected to each other as I can get. Yeah, as close as I can get to those two pieces being a solid piece is, you know, what I'm after. Oh, come on, quit being a pain in the ass. And I think that moved. No, the water's not doing anything. It's not touching it. Okay. Ow, 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 ow. That hurt. And, of course, I can't really see what I'm doing. Okay, that should at least be connected. Okay. You're thinking, yeah, you just prettied it up and then you just grossed it back up. Yep, that's kind of part of this. But you can see kind of where we're going there. I will tell you one thing, clean up this side before you put the other one on, because, you know, you hit that issue of can't get in here once you get the entire thing together. Come on, turn back on. Okay, well. It's getting there. Son of a bitch. Okay, just a second. Pull it off. But as I said, you can kind of see where it's taking form, and it would protect the hand pretty well now. Well, it would kind of protect the hand. Stuff like this wasn't uncommon. It was just, you know, it would protect your hand pretty good from a slash, not so much from a thrust. But the Cutlass was not a predominantly thrusting weapon. It was more of a slash and cut weapon. So from a poking move would get right up through this guard, you know, but a striking move, like the way you would typically use this kind of sword, is probably going to bounce off, you know. I mean, hell, there's a half-assed representation of what this thing will look like when it's done, but you just got to figure a wider curved blade and nowhere near that long. Yeah, the reason it says blank is because this is some, you know, pretty much the same kind of materials I got here. Not hardenable, so yeah. And then I have a aluminum freaking Wakizashi blade that, you know, was on a Wakizashi I bought years ago, you know, back when it wasn't uncommon to get them made out of aluminum alloy. Yeah, and that thing's a hunk of crap. Alright, now what do I do with that other one? There it is. Well, we'll do about the same thing here. Figure out where it needs to meet up to. Well, that's weird. I couldn't have been off by that much. I forgot. This handle wasn't exact. I needed to bend one of these down just a tiny bit. Because I was like, why is it? Ah, fuck. And of course, I snap it clean off. There again, there were quite a few that were just like that only really guarded the front and off one side. We can actually, hell, for that matter. I can clean this up, and believe it or not, this is almost we're going to call that a happy accident. Because there were plenty of guards that were just like this. You know, your hand went in there and it guarded like one side, and there might have been a little thing over here to guard, you know, just enough to guard your thumb, kind of like that. And we can do that easy enough without making this thing so... Because right now I would have hell trying to get back in here to clean up the underside of this. Now, if it's just a small little, you know, loop over here and not a full cage, that I can probably do. In fact, I might even... This is going to seem kind of weird to y'all, but I might flare this at such a weird angle. Because I've seen that done too. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I know what we'll do. This is actually going to come forward a bit, like this. See? And what that allows for is, when you're in here, your hand comes in, it still guards your thumb, but it kind of keeps it at like a forward pitch, which was actually something that a lot of them did anyway, and then keeps the rest of the hand guarded behind those rails. Yeah. And that would be a hell of a lot easier to get to in the grind. I mean, I'm not going to come straight off of it, but I'm going to come like at a slight lifted angle to the other bit. And then... Yeah. We'll do that. So if y'all haven't figured out by now that I do a lot of things kind of on the fly and at the spur of the moment, yeah, well, that's just kind of how things tend to work. I do tend to be like a go with the flow person. If something ain't working, I will change methods. Okay, let's see what... Ugly, but workable. Okay, so flared side. Hmm. Where'd that other piece of... No, I don't got that shit. I could, but there's no real reason. Okay, guys, so we've got the guard this far, and what I'll need to do, I will need to reinforce this welding in here and in here, but I'm really going to need to get the blade in it before I do too much more tinkering, because I want to like actually sweep this out instead of having it just at that angle. I want it to like curve up and out, because imagine if I try to do it like this, I'm probably just going to snap that back off again. Because I don't think those welds, no, those welds aren't going all the way through. They're just holding it on. Okay, yeah, I need to touch that up. But, honestly, for now, I mean, that shows you kind of, you know, where you're going with this. I'm trying to figure out if there would be a safer way for me to do this. If I could get it locked in here somehow, to where I wasn't torquing on the handle and I was just literally bending on... Okay, I think I have a method. I'm not going to put any pressure on the handle, because that's already kind of proven that it just likes to pop right off of there. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the pressure right down here on this little bar. There we go. And I got vice grips. Vice grips should probably do it. Maybe. Yeah, I got vice grips. I think I need longer vice grips. Yep. Because I need something I can actually get it. I need tighter vice grips. Okay. Alright, maybe I can tweak that a bit. Yeah, shit. Yep, it broke. But I'm going to go ahead and bend this to where I needed it. It broke or not, so, you know. Yep, that one broke off too. Anyway. So, let's just go ahead and get this thing bent like it needed to be, since it already snapped off. Okay. Where's my big one? That worked better. Ow. Cracked my hand into shit. Well, that little stubby side may not bend that well. Okay. But yeah, that would have been a much better looking twist. I'm just trying to figure out how to get it welded up to where it'll stay welded up. Because I may be getting tired of welding. Actually, I'm going to tighten this curl a bit. Because I might try something a little bit different. Yep. Because I noticed how well those one welds took, but they ran down the distance of something and weren't just the ends. So I'm thinking let's try that again. So basically I have to turn this into a bit more of a loop than what it is. Okay, so if I attach this here, bend it in a little more, and I think it'll work. There's the hammer. Yeah, I can at least get it, you know, about an inch along there, and even if that is a tack weld, it's still a lot better than what we were dealing with. Yeah, that'll work. Here we go, welding again. Yeah. Where'd you go? There you are. There you are. Ground, and get you where we need you. I already figured out one thing. Well, yeah, I can do it this way first, and then God, the welding lead. Get off there. Way too much of you. Okay, if you're gonna tack, tack. Oh, well, it works. It's kind of not really how you're supposed to do it, but it works. Yeah, ugly but functional. Oh, come on. Yeah, I think these vice grips may have seen their better days. Damn it. I was afraid that was going to happen. Hmm. Alright. That was in the realm of what I wanted anyway. Okay. That slightly forward swept there, and now to weld up the backside, because front side ain't strong enough, I can guarantee you. Ears itching. Okay. Ow, 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 ow. Okay. My vision corrected itself. Trying to make sure there we go. I'm pretty sure that's actually a solid weld now. Okay, and I don't have to tweak on it, I don't have to bend on it, all I have to do is just clean it up. Okay. Hmm. Well, oh, shit. What? As you go, there is one thing you will start looking for, just rubbing your hands around any like burrs and sharp points, and got a few up in here that the only way I'm going to be able to clean those up is with a Dremel, because I can't get that blade down, that angle, that wheel down in here really anymore. Um, I could get that, but anyhow, yeah, I'll go ahead and knock that out while I'm generally, so far in most of the videos, you've seen me use like the bench grinder and stuff like that more than the angle grinder. But I'll be honest with you, the angle grinder was the first tool I really had that worth a crap, and that's kind of my go-to. I mean, you can take a flat piece of steel and an angle grinder and make a decent little like. You can make something like that with an angle grinder. You wouldn't even have to have that. Well, maybe not exactly this, but you could get real close to it. But as I said, I'll open these holes up probably in our next video when I make the blade. I'll clean this up with a Dremel or something, because I got to get in here with something small to get that. Um, yeah, I really need a die grinder, which a Dremel basically is, but you know, I got a pretty good Dremel in the house. I just don't haven't got it out here yet. But yeah, and then I'm gonna save that for the next video, because I know y'all guys have been on here long enough. But we're gonna clean this up and this, and you can kind of see a bunch of like rough, sketchy patches all over this. We'll try to get all those buffed out, and those buff out with this. It's that Scotch Brite wheel. Then you'll have a real even coat to everything that I can get to. Down in here we can't get to, but as I said, that'll probably get more of a paint. Unless I go in with a, well, see what I can do with the um, Dremel, well, die grinder. It's not a Dremel, it's not a Dremel brand, but you get the idea. I'm going to call it a Dremel because that's what everyone calls it. But yeah, so anyway, guys, for right now, this is the basis of a, you know, a saber guard. You could put a rapier in there, but the way this is, it's much more of a saber or cutlass. Um, for a rapier, I would have extended another tang off this way. You wouldn't have to. You could have done it just like that, but it would have been kind of a, you know, rapiers. Yeah, I would have brought a second quillion up here, um, and this would have been straight back behind that. Probably a bit further back too, because with a rapier, well, if you're not gonna put the finger choil up here, which is a little loop that goes this way, so you can go up like that, or you can rock your hand around this way in here, which gives you a better thrust. But yeah, this kind of blade is, it can thrust, but it's much more of a slice. But, you know, there are certain things you will do just because it's specific to that type of blade. Um, you don't really have much of a reason for a finger ring on a cutlass. I mean, you could, but eh. Um, but you know, and up here is a real joke because you're not trying to thrust with it; you're trying to slash and parry. So a slash and parry weapon handles pretty well like this. Anyway, um, yeah, hmm, actually, didn't even think about it. I'll clean up as much of that as I can right here with this. It's a start. It's nowhere near where I want to be, but it's a start. Now that's a lot closer to where I wanted to be. It's not near as ugly. It's still ugly, but not as bad. It's getting there. Faster than I thought it would, too. This might only take a few minutes. I think I'm using the wrong kind of file, to be honest with you. I need a half round, and I'm pretty sure I got one somewhere. I'll switch out to jeweler's files in a little while if I have to, but man, that'll take forever. Or back here I can feel. That's the other thing you'll end up doing a lot is as you roll your hand around, you'll feel a sharp spot, and then, yeah, that's gotta go. Hmm. It's kind of taken on this like bony accent look, which if I'm doing a pirate saber, I might actually run with that. You know, kind of give it that. It's seen a little damage, and you know, it's kind of meant to kind of look a little bonish anyway, bony anyway. Hmm. Like, yeah. But yeah, some of the kind of rough welding you see. I mean, I'm sure I could clean it up given long enough, but man, that could take forever. Okay, I'm gonna lock it in a vise right quick, just to see if I can get a little more pressure on some of these. Because holding it and trying to do it, it's not really the greatest option for, you know, getting material to move. Let's see. Got your powder. Now you're a round file. At least you'll get in the opening. Okay. Well, that's a lot smoother than what it was. It's still bumpy, but I'm saying it didn't have any little jagged sharp pieces. Uh. But as I said, with it having that kind of bumpy, kind of a bony look, I might do something like um, I might take a little piece of this and cut out like a little skull shape, and then shape it out to go over this with like, I don't know exactly how I would do it though. If I would just cut a slot in the center of the skull with it coming out of it, or if I would turn the skull in such a way where the skull's coming out, the blade's coming out of the mouth. Like this could hold the lower jaw, the upper jaw's up here, and the blade's coming out of the mouth. Um, I might just do something a little simpler. Uh, Let me draw up a few designs and I'll figure out what would be the best bet. But I'm getting tired. It's getting late, and there you go. You have a functional hand guard. I just had to cut the holes, and enlarge that hole once I figure out what the hell is wrong with the drill press. Okay, talk to y'all later, guys. Bye. Where's the thing? There. Off. End.